Thank you, Max. Thank you, everyone who spoke. I want to thank you all for being here today. This is a very, very different situation, different format. Last semester, I took Introduction to Comparative Politics here. And no, not woo. It was awful. It was awful. It was so bad. Something that I vividly remember, my professor talking about was, and I know the GW students here have heard this, something called the resource curse. So yeah, if you're like taking any poli-sci, which is like totally made up, by the way, as a poli-sci major, I can say poli-sci is fake. But my professor was talking about something called the resource curse, where countries that have lots of resources, whether it's oil, minerals, gas, whatever it may be, finds itself in a cursed position where they fall into destitution and poverty and mismanage their own resources and fall into corruption, which is total bullshit. And once you arm yourself with the knowledge of history, of revolutionary struggles, of imperialism, you can tell that it's bullshit. But I looked around in all my class, as I was laughing to myself as my professor was saying this, I saw all these students diligently taking notes. And I think that is just a testament to how important a presence like GW Students Against Imperialism here is here. And then, yeah. We joke and we call GW a State Department pipeline, where they manufacture little agents of the empire that are uncritical, regurgitate whatever is fed to them, and further violent interests as long as it looks good on their resumes and CVs. And right now, what we're seeing now with just the cultivation of very, very dedicated and educated and young, like some as young as freshmen. I was 17 when I started here. Like that's how young the freshmen are. And they're recognizing, they see the name Students Against Imperialism and they say, hey, I want to be a part of that. I want to resist everything that this institution is for. Colonials. Yeah, our mascot is the Colonials, if you guys don't know. Like, yeah, you can't make that shit up. The fact that we've cultivated this space, that we can have stuff like this, and that we can reach and build connections and reach understandings with students here who maybe do feel that they have good intentions, maybe not taking advantage of the best forms with a Hilternship or interning with a senator. Is what it's called. It's a very competitive intern culture here. Making people recognize that if you do mean well, then maybe you should look into what policies your Democratic senator is supporting. Maybe you should look into what foreign policy has been enacted time and time again and recognize that there's a system that has been maintained. Okay, that's fine. A system that's been maintained over hundreds and hundreds of years. Like something that we always talk about in Students Against Imperialism is how the evils of colonialism and slavery and occupation never died. They just manifested in different ways. So that's how we have imperialism. That's how we have neoliberalism. And once you put a different name to it, or you put a pretty shining face to it with Obama, you can overlook it, but it's still the same evil, still the same symptoms and product that they're trying to reach, and it's the same people who fall victim to it time and time again, and that is the people of the global South. And so I'm a 2000s baby, so I am very young, but compared to like other people in the anti-war movement. So when people talk about the Iraq War and Bush and everything like that, I don't really know what they're talking about. I was like, one? I'll just speak up. Hello? Okay, yeah. But what we do know is time and time again how we're told in our classes from like 3rd grade onwards about the American Revolution and history and what they fought for and these different wars and interventions, and slowly you realize that the stuff that we're sanctioning and blockading Cuba for, providing healthcare, education, free housing, pre-K, all these things, all these amazing things that we want for people here at home, is the same thing that they're providing and that we're going over and invading them for, and blockading them for, and enacting violent sanctions on them for. And once you start making these connections, you're an idiot if you don't recognize that they're not your enemy, and that you're really kidding yourself if you're trying to do the mental gymnastics to make it out to seem that we're the good guys here. So I think right now we're at such a critical time, and I say this every single time I speak, because we always are, that we are able to see through all the smoke and mirrors and see things for how they really are. You can't shoot an unarmed Palestinian children and call it a defense of a democratic state. That shit doesn't fly. It literally doesn't make sense. You can't say that you're protecting freedom when you're sanctioning families in Venezuela or Iran or Cuba and making it so that they can't afford treatment for preventable diseases and life-harming illnesses. You can't say that you're doing that all in good faith or for the protection of freedom or liberty. What the hell is our freedom and liberty doing in the Middle East? What is it doing in an oil field? So that's, and young people are realizing that through memes, through other means, and we're starting to stand up, and I think that's the revitalization of the anti-war movement. So, when we hear about how in the Vietnam War they were like burning their, what are they called? Draft.
Sometimes the draft war, which is the building.
Yeah, that is so sick. I don't really see us moving en masse, or at least any GW students moving en masse to do any type of radical act like that, but in the small ways that we can, resisting the empire and, building connections. And I think something that you all should look out for if you're in the DC area is some future events that GW Students Against Imperialism wants to host and hold. Today's a perfect example of how we can be a vessel for the struggle. We have this room, this 200-person capacity room that is usually used to impart lies and imperialist propaganda to make these little State Department puppets. We're using that as a force for good. We're using that as a force of justice and truth. And in the future, we want to keep doing that. We want to keep that up. We heard some amazing speakers. We would love for you guys to come back and hopefully reach a larger audience. Maybe reach some of those kids who are diligently taking down their little imperialist notes.
Brendan is also going to say a couple words.
Okay. Yeah, so we have a really amazing future ahead of us for GW Students Against Imperialism. We're new. So if you guys all want to follow us on Instagram at GWUSAI, we post a lot about upcoming events, and you just look us up. We're on Facebook too. We're going to be doing a lot of cool things in the future that are open to the public. So definitely plug yourself into that, and hopefully I'll be seeing you all again in the future.